Hello, everyone. Good to have you all here. It's Wednesday, 9 p.m. here in Ireland, and it's time for our spiritual light. And today we do have our friend Munir Gariba sharing his insights with us. And as we know, this month we are dedicating to Kardec. And today's topic it is: Did Spiritism emerge at a favorable time? And this is an interesting topic. Why Spiritism has been emerged in the 19th century? Why that moment? What it does mean? So we will explore um, some of these. But anyway, and along with Munir and myself, we do have my three musketeers here. So good evening, Elsa. How are you, my dear?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Stevan, Charles, Silvia, Munir. Wow, our room is shining tonight. It's a great pleasure to be here once again, and I can't wait to listen Munir today. Thank you.
Miss Gibbons, how are you, my dear?
Hello, good evening, everyone. Charles and Elsa and Steven, and it's really nice to have you with us today. And everyone that be joining us, we're going to talk about something very important today, which is Spiritism, its origins, and why it came. So it's very, very important. I hope everyone joins and ask questions, make your comments, and it'll be really nice. And it's really lovely to be with all of you again.
Good. Bonsoir, Charles.
Bonsoir, Stevan. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Silvia, Elsa, Stevan, Munir, very happy to be here again to talk a little bit, to look historically what happened, how these things came, why, when, and where we are today, and where do we intend to go tomorrow.
That's brilliant. Okay. So first things first, as always, um, I think we should start with you, Charles, because when Spiritism was codified by Allan Kardec, we had a bunch of historical episodes happening, like ending of materialism, end of monarchy in France, ending of the beginning of the materialism. So, and also Kardec already asked that question, mentioned about it in his Spiritism magazine. So, what was the historical context in which Spiritism came to light in the 19th century, Charles?
Yeah, good question, Steven. But you told about the French Revolution, right? It was 1789. So at the end of the 18th century, the 18th century is known as the century of lights. Thinkers, theories, philosophies that were existing since very long time, but which came more fine-tuned and claiming for more liberty, for more dignity, and so on, leading to not only the French Revolution, but the American Revolution, the British Revolution, French one, and a lot of others which happened at that time. People claiming from liberty, but on another hand, falling from one extreme to another one, to the opposite extreme. And it was also the begin, Descartes and the science and the begin of industrialization technologies that was already in the 19th century, the beginning. And this bunch of phenomena that happened in US, in Hydesville, the Fox family house, that is the trigger. This phenomenon was not new because this type of phenomenon exists since nature exists, since all these so-called paranormal phenomena are simply natural phenomena that were never observed carefully and studied as they should have been before that moment. And this trigger had a huge echo throughout the world, in France, with moving table and so on. And Allan Kardec observing and making his work. What is also interesting is when you think if this, or it certainly happened that a similar episode happened before the French Revolution, where there was still a monarchy in France. We were allied with the religious, the Catholics in France. It was the only allowed and mandatory religion was the Catholic religion. Imagine what would have happened if someone like Allan Kardec would have studied this phenomenon and written a book about them. And he would have immediately imprisoned or killed or burnt or whatsoever. So it could not have happened before the coming of the necessary level of freedom. And another episode was very interesting since a lot of philosophies in this century of light, 18th centuries, were developed, amongst which one of them is from Maine de Biran, the French spiritualism or rational spiritualism. So he came to the philosophy at that time, led by this one, was spiritualist. So the philosophy taught in the school was teaching about the existence of the soul, independent of the body, where some of our fundamental properties, like the will, is existing. So all this explains why that moment and that context was very favorable for receiving the Spiritist philosophy and a book like the Spirit's book. Earlier, it would have immediately annihilated. And maybe later, it would have fallen already into this positivism, scientism, because these spiritualist philosophies were existing the first half of the 90th century, particularly. But later on, with the scientism and all the science got more materialistic. So it would also have been a huge hurdle or a bigger obstacle for the acceptance of these theories, as it is, by the way, still the case today. Spiritist has been codified by Allan Kardec. It has developed a lot at that moment for the reasons I have just indicated. But then it has been again dampened by the materialist paradigm until more recent days, end of the 20th centuries, where people are feeling a lot of new spiritualities popping up, and where the Spiritist philosophy is gaining back into importance at several places in the world. So, I mean, that's just a short introduction. Of course, there is much more to say about it.
Okay, good overview. So Munir, what's your, as a professor, what's your context in terms of the emerging spiritism in the middle of the 19th century?
Hello, Stevan. Thanks for having me. Good evening to all those watching us. Hello, Elsa, Silvia, and Charles. It's a pleasure to be sharing the studio with you all, especially with Charles, who knows so much about historical facts of Spiritism, not just the doctrine itself, but also, the backgrounds and what led to this moment. And it's a very interesting topic. Instead of using micro lenses to look at the situation at Kardec's time or when Spiritism was brought to the world, I use a macro lens and go back to Moses, 3,500 years, when humanity had a huge revelation that led to Christianity, of course, from Judaism to Christianity. And the severity of those laws God presented to humans in the sense of a severe God, because they were coming out of Egypt, they were lacking discipline, and that was used actually to focus that group of people into worshiping God, one God only. And then came Jesus, showing a loving God. And I'm going to refer to one chapter in the Gospel according to Spiritism, which is chapter 24. And remember what Jesus said about the lamp under the bushel. Why Jesus spoke in parables. And basically he explained things to the apostles because they had conditions to understand, whereas the majority of people, due to their ignorance, there is still the lack that exists in terms of intellectual development. They could not understand. And Jesus said, I speak to them in parables because they are in no condition to understand certain things. And they see, they hear, but they do not understand. Thus, it would be pointless to tell them everything for now. So Jesus basically planned when was the right time for the further development of his teachings. So Spiritism didn't come, out of the blue. It was planned. And then looking back at the history from, Jesus, the first Christians who were highly evolved spirits, who, went and gave their life for the propagation of Christianity. And then we come into the Middle Age, Dark Ages, where nothing happened. We were left basically on our own without those evolved spirits who were around when Jesus was here. Basically, the situation was like that. Now you have the teachings to observe, to learn, and to practice. And it took us, from the fall of the Roman Empire, nearly, 500 AD, and 476 to be more precise, onwards. Humanity, at least in the West, went into what we call the Dark Ages. Nothing happened significantly. And we had the churches controlling all that. And everything was understood according to the church, was governed by the church. And as Charles mentioned, kings and so on. So basically humanity was kept in a situation where all the teachings were brewing, but were not put into practice. And only when we come to Renaissance, 16th, and then 17th, 18th century, with the age of enlightenment, as Charles mentioned, that we start to free ourselves from the domain of the church. And then, we had the development of our philosophy, science. Then, we have so many important names and their contribution towards that. Then Charles mentioned the revolutions, and I would also mention the Industrial Revolution. I'll mention the end to slavery all around the colonies, the independence of the colonies. So the world got to a point of maturity where transformation started to happen. And one important point is that those who felt free from, the church, through science, they started to prove the reality of the world in a different way, saying, oh, God created this and it's a mystery. And science, when they started to prove that lightning had an explanation for that life had an explanation for that, given by science. And what would these people do? go hand in hand with the church that had kept them from developing, from bringing all this knowledge to humanity? Or would they turn their back, including turning their back to God? Then materialism started to, develop itself within the sciences that said we don't need God to prove, to show how a seed turned into, the tree. An acorn becomes, an oak tree. And so immediately you say, well, that was nothing, was something that was not good to us, what the church did. It was a terrible time. And then what we do, we don't want to know about the church and what the church told us until this point. We go when we have evolved in intellectual terms, our perceptions were more evolved as well. I would even say morally, we were more evolved. The new ideas came, that, Spiritism came. The spirits brought to us the reality of our immortality, of reincarnation, and of the spiritual world. They didn't come here to solve our problems and say, from now on, you live in a society that, does. No, they presented the laws that should be respected in the physical world as in anywhere else in this universe, the invisible universe. So based on that, our society then should guide this movement, towards that. And of course, we still had many wars after, the mid-19th century, when Spiritism came to the world. And, had the Second World War in the 20th century. We still today, So we have to think in terms of preparation before and also preparation for the future, as Charles also mentioned that. So Spiritism came at the very right time. And also the comments by Kardec on this chapter 24, the Gospel according to Spiritism, the same I referred at the beginning, are exactly in that direction. We had no conditions to know things more than the way Jesus presented, in the form of parables. And in those days, the tradition was to tell stories verbally. Very few people knew how to read and write. So stories were told, and Jesus presented his teachings in the form of stories to perpetuate those stories until the future, until the day that we receive the key to unlock these stories, open them, unfold them, and then understand what they meant. Otherwise, they would have disappeared. He would have only talked to the 12, apostles, and that was it. So keeping people with those stories, telling one generation, to another and another, then the story will be perpetuated. His teachings would be, amongst us, but would be understood in the future.
Good. Thank you, Munir. Thank you. I also want to give a good night to Marco Davis, Riaya Rom, Abdel Ahmed. So good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. So, Ms. Gibbons, in the middle of this context, did Spiritism provide answer to like existential and metaphysical questions that other religions or philosophical movements were failing to address at that time?
Well, that's an easy question, isn't it? I think not only Spiritism brought the answers to the questions, it still does, and will do for a very long time. I think, as Charles Munir said, Spiritism came at the time that was predicted. And it was very interesting, the explanation that Munir gave about that. But we have something even more in relation to when Spiritism should arrive. in the Gospel of St. John, he, I think, is verses 14, chapter 14, in verse 15 to 17, there is this very famous quotation in which it says, Jesus saying to the apostles, if you love me, keep my commandments, and I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever, even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it see him not, neither knoweth him, but he shall know him. For he dwelleth with you, and shall be within you. But the Comforter, which is the Holy Ghost, whom the Father will send in my name, he shall teach you all things, and bring all things to your remembrance, whatsoever I have said unto you. This is from John. And I mean, this is exactly what Spiritism has come at the time, as Charles explained, when mankind was thirsting for knowledge, for freedom of thought, which was quite lost during the Middle Ages. And although, we think it completely lost, never anything is completely lost. We had many people who fought, and that's one of the reasons why the Inquisition came into being, exactly to suppress all the things that came. And, we had Giordano Bruno, for instance, who was burned alive on the 2nd of February in 1600 in Rome because of his ideas, because he was considered a heretic. With his ideas of the sun, the earth going around the sun, and all these kind of things. And many people said because the 17th century was one of the most painful and difficult centuries we had. There is a lot of persecution, religious intolerance was at, the number of people were accused of witchcraft and were murdered, and the most tortures and everything. But, we did overcome, and the ideas came, and, as Charles saying, the idea of the luminist, it was a completely different. We see a man, as a center of his ideas, and freedom of thought and all that, and freedom of religion as well, which you couldn't have before. So, and amidst all this changing, and and even the amazing turmoil that happened in the history of France with the French Revolution, and which started wonderful, amazing ideas of change and freedom and equality and liberty and everything, became a nightmare because everything that just seems they turn into something difficult. But it, in the end, there were some things that were good come out of it. And there was a change. And Spiritism came about at that time. And I think, as Charles pointed out, and Munir as well, because before there would be burned in stake or something, or tortured by the Inquisition. And I think one of the very interesting things, which puts the Spiritism as almost the cherry on the top of this cake, is that one of the things that happened was when the Spirit's book was published, the Bishop of Barcelona, they were sending books to Barcelona, and was the last act of faith that happened. The last thing of the Inquisition was actually to burn the Spirit's book in a public square in Barcelona. And they tried to, and I think this really proves that Spiritism came at the right time when it most needed. And I think if that bishop knew the effect that burning of those 300 books in a public square, as was as they call in Spanish, acto de fe, was the last thing, that was called the index, that they would burn books that they did not accept. And the Spirits book was the last book that ever was burned under the index of the Inquisition. And of course, everyone wanted to, even people who had no idea what was going on, said, this book must have something in it because they're actually burning it. It's like the Inquisition coming out again. And it was, everyone wanted to know. And of course, if you just open the contents of the Spirits book, I don't know how you others feel, but there isn't a single question, absolutely a single question of any doubt about God, about the soul, about our lives, why we are here, why our lives are the way we are, where we're going, where we came from. There is absolutely every answer that mankind has ever asked. And there is, the philosophy, there is the thing about life and death and what happens after we die and what's the purpose of the life here. I think it's a complete, is a panoramic view of all the topics and all the questions that mankind has ever had. It came at the time when, everyone wanted to know more, they wanted to choose what to think and how to think. And I think there is a lot of science in the Spirits book. I think what is a connection. Of course, there is a religion connection in the sense that is connecting mankind again with God, because we seem to have lost that connection with God. And that's what Spiritism brings as well. But also it's pure science that we are beginning to discover now, in the 21st century, and science that we still don't know. It's still for the future to discover. And the question of life, I think one of the most important questions for us to talk about and to debate is exactly the point. Who am I? What's the purpose of my life? What am I doing here? And where do I go after I finish this life? This is such an answer that I think every single human being has those questions. And the Spirit book, the Spiritism, actually answer those questions. So I think, yes, it's in a question of science and metaphysics and everything. It's because I don't think it's, in a way, sometimes, paranormal, and there's nothing paranormal about Spiritism. There is nothing, strange. Everything is science that is not as yet discovered. And I think also one of the main things for me that Spiritism brings as well is the fact that this road that was separated, that science is here and religion is there, is coming back together, and we walk in those roads. It's interesting. There is an interview with Dr. Marlene Nobre with Chico Xavier. And he quoted something very, very interesting, which he said when he was talking to her. And he says that religion comes and breaks the path, and science comes and builds the road on it. So, it's, and I think he took this actually from Isaiah, from the Old Testament. He says something very similar. And then St. Augustine as well, St. Augustine of Hippo also said something about that, religion cuts the trail and science comes and builds a road on that. And I think that's what Spiritism is a logical, reasonable explanation. You don't need to change your religion to become a Spiritist, because it's logical, is reasonable. You believe in God because, and you know why you believe in God. It's not, it doesn't demand that you believe in things that your reason cannot accept. So it's really a path for the future. And I think, I'm not sure if I'm wrong, Charles may correct me, I think it was Leon Denis who said Spiritism is not the really future of religion, but the future of all religion, isn't it, or something like that.
It's not the
So
religion of the future, but the future of
future of all
religion.
religion, yes. And it's very simple, isn't it? It's very simple. Is you believe in God, you treat your neighbors yourself, be kind to treat others as you want to be treated, and discover things. And I think this fulfills one of the basic needs that we have as human beings: curiosity to learn more and more and more. And spiritism, I mean, the more you read it, the less you know, because there is
Mhm.
always so many more things to learn in these books. I find it fascinating, and I recommend it to everyone who listen to us and is here, with us during these talks and everything, to really go and read this book, because it's such a source of light and peace, and also gives you a lot of hope in the future, especially at these times that we are living into very difficult times, and gives you hope. And I think this is very, very important, something to hold on to, that God is there with us. No matter how bad things can get, there is always hope and there is redemption. And I find this one of the most, a source of great peace for me. And I think other people may feel the same.
Yeah,
Sort of
thank,
long-winded answer, but that's it.
thank you, my dear. Thank you. It's very thoughtful. And for you, my dear Elsa, what's the impact of the Spiritist book and the Spiritism in London? Like we have crooks, we have all those important people in London reacting to it.
Yes, Stevan. Our topic today: did Spiritism emerge at a favorable time? Yes, because the divine agenda for the world progressing is wonderful and is right. And Silvia pointed very well why we are here, why do I suffer, why we have wars, etc. And the Spiritist teachings answer all these questions. It's up to us to have a time to looking for a study, free studies in London, in Ireland, in Brazil, in France. Our groups receive people from other places, sects, religion. They don't need to change their religion in order to learn a little bit more about life, eternal life, earth, etc. And I'd like to bring here just one paragraph from a message received by Divaldo Franco on the 18th of April 2010 during the third Brazilian Spiritist Congress in Brasilia, Brazil. And Dr. Bezerra said, "We are now in a new period. These days mark a very special date, the date of the change from a world of trials and atonements to a world of regeneration. The great night that fell on the earth slowly gives way to the dawn of blessings. Retreating is no longer possible." So, we are in the right time, and we here that are listening, working, participating, we are in the right time on learning Spiritist teachings. Perhaps we had this opportunity in the past and we didn't take this opportunity. We didn't learn. We even could have done something wrong against the Spiritist or religions. As we are not a religion now, we are a philosophy, we are a way of life to explain our life, and it's is in everywhere, every book of religion, Talmud, Quran, Torah, etc., we have the same main point that Jesus brings to us, that we have nowadays. And the Spiritism confirms, explains, and develops the word of Jesus. It reveals the spiritual world and its relation with the corporeal world. Beautiful, no? So the Spiritists, we know where we come from, why we are on earth, why we suffer, where we go, understand and accept the justice of God, divine laws. We have learned that the Spiritist progresses through the spirit progresses through the plurality of existences until it reaches the degree of perfection that brings it closer to God. Plurality of inhabited worlds explains free will. Occasionally, we see these three great moments, but in reality, the process itself has always been continuous. Munir explained the history, Moses until nowadays. That is wonderful the way that Jesus came and teach us, forgive, love, and be charitable. And Spiritism explain all these lessons from Jesus in a way that is in everywhere easily to learn and freely to learn. It's up to us to understand the importance to know about spiritual life, about spiritual world, that there is no punishment, etc., etc., etc. So these moments, in reality, the process itself has always been continuous. Nature does not make leaps, and neither does mankind. As one develops intellectually, the conditions are created for us to receive more teachings from our dear Master. There are more to say, but I stop here and I'd like to listen you more.
Thank you. Thank you, my dear. Um, Charles, would Spiritism have been received different if it have emerged in today's world of digital communication or social media? What's going to be different, or if it's going to be different?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, the technological progress was huge already at the time of Kardec. Imagine there were horses pushing well, I don't carroza. I don't know the name in English.
Carts. Yeah.
Sorry,
Carts.
carts. Yeah, and at Kardec's time there were already development of trains. You imagine driving 100 kilometers per hour. It was a revolution at that time. Technology continued making huge progresses, as you just mentioned. There came the digital era, computers, now social media, communication. We see you are here talking live throughout the world. So amazing things, resources that have been brought by technology. Now the thing is, okay, what do we use this technology for? Do we use it for trying to do good, spreading good things, or do we use it to win money or to dominate or to manipulate or to introduce bias in some elections or whatever? That's the big question. Einstein made this theory of relativity in 1905 with this famous formula E is m times c at square. We have seen what it has given in 1945 with Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Imagine if this atomic bomb would be in the hands of a couple of years before of the German Führer. What would it have given? Maybe we would not be here to talk about today. So this is exactly the big. Also, Spiritism is coming in due time, in order to explain us. Hey, guy, you have a soul. We have a soul, and this soul does not die. Only our body dies. Our soul is not dying. What does our soul keep? Not a single penny. The day they put us in the grave, in the box and in the grave, we do not take with us a single penny. So why do we run after money, after power, after influence, and so on? Stuff that we don't take with us at all the day we die. A lot of people are still, doing like uh, avestruz. How do you tell that in English? Sorry.
Ostrich.
Yeah.
Ostrich, yes, to put the head under the sun, not to see the reality. No, but when we die, everything stops. Nothing more will come. Huh? So I take opportunity of as long as I am alive to live as intensely as I can, even if I don't respect the others, even if I whatsoever. This is a huge mistake, because we do not die, we continue, and we will take with us our conscience, whether it is good or whether it is bad. Uh, I think a lot of political leaders nowadays should think a little bit more about these type of questions, because they would not put money, business, or whatever before human lives. This is unfortunately what we are seeing today. So that's also an urgent task, an urgent mission of the Spiritist body of knowledge. Elsa gave a lot of principles, Munir também, Munir as well, sorry. It's all about ethics, all about good and evil, all about what is really important for us and what is secondary and only temporary. Where should we focus our value to? So this is absolutely urgent nowadays. If we don't want because we are seriously running into a similar danger as the one I just told. Huh? Look what's happening in the world, how many wars, people willing to, I like this country or that area is strategic, I want it for me. Where are we going to? Is new colonization? What is this? So the social media and whatever that we are using here, by the way, is exactly this, to go to send through these messages that have been brought thanks to the help of the spirits and the work of Allan Kardec, this huge consistent philosophy, spiritualist philosophy, to make us understand where our real interest is, and where it shall not be. And this is what we have to do nowadays, to spread much more intensely awake, help making the people get awake. What do we want for our future? Do we want to be dominated or uniformized, copy pasted one from the other? Do we want to keep a kind of diversity in the world? This is absolutely what it is about. Do we want to preserve our planet? Huh? I hear some political people saying, no, we must drill, take oil, gas, petroleum, coal, whatever, burn it, and, completely like the ostrich, ignoring that tomorrow, not in 100 years, but very soon, there will be huge consequences on the life of the human on our planet. So these are the things that we really have to disseminate through this social media, using this new technology and resources for good things and not just for bad things or whatsoever. Otherwise, there is no sustainable future for the humanity on this planet. But there will be a sustainable future for the humanity. A lot of people who are abusing nowadays, okay, Earth is not habitable, is not, we cannot habit the Earth anymore. Huh? Condition for human life is not here anymore. So, but I need to progress. My soul needs to progress, so I need to reincarnate somewhere. Maybe we will have to reincarnate like 10,000 years ago to help some people in another planet to come out of the caverns. That is the reality. And this is what we have to think about, keep in mind, and say, now it's time to change. What future do we want? Do we want a future of consumption, abuses, domination, new colonization, or whatever? Or do we want a future with more harmony, more respect for one for the other, more liberty? This is the serious question we have to debate right now.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you. Also, Marco Davis, he put a comment here. The science of France, it was not so developed like in England, Germany, Italy, because this French Revolution, Industrial Revolution, came from UK. Kardec are very, very intelligent that took out all sources before Pentateuch Spirits book, the five books Kardec, into first, also in Sweden, Swedenborg
came before, yes, that's right.
Came before, into the Middle Age, wrote at all of mediumistic phenomena without pre-organized thought, but very important documentation about it. Also, normal Greek philosophy influence plus French Revolution. Yes. So
yeah, Kardec had the lucidity at that time, you know. There were, on one extreme was a religion, on the other extreme, the materialistic, atheistic science. So a lot of people say, no, Kardec wanted to reconcile them. Impossible. You see, today, still one ignoring the other. But what Kardec did is, okay, religion, what good things do you have? Moral laws, do unto the other what you would like the other to do unto you, love your neighbor as yourself, and so on. This is very nice. Does somebody has something to say about against this? Nobody. He was also looking on science. What do you have good in science? Cartesian or positivist methodology and so on. So, and then on both sides, you have also the abuses like religious dogmas, sacerdotal hierarchy, inquisition, and so on that have been mentioned. And on the science is materialism, atheism, whatsoever. So he took best of science and best of religion, put it together in something new, which he called Spiritism. So that is the correct way to proceed. Take the good ideas wherever they are, and then start building on this, trying to leave aside what is dividing and putting together what is uniting. And this is one of the difficulties that until today, even in the academies and so on, the people, they do not understand Spiritism because it's something new. Is it a science? No, not in the usual sense of the word. Is it a religion? As well, not in the usual meaning of that word. It is really a new concept, how to say, a disruption in the history of humanity. So he came on good time because a lot of teachings are already here, but yet it is not properly understood. So there is a huge potential still to bring much more good for humanity as long in progressively as we understand it better.
Okay, wonderful. Oh my gosh, already 10 minutes to finish. It's insane, you know.
Sorry for that.
No.
I'd like to make a comments. Yeah, if we.
Yeah, let's make a comment and let's prepare to wrap up because I know I wish we have more time.
Yeah, because a question that I have is today, what the spirits brought to us through Kardec? Does he explain everything? Are we at the point in spiritual development, intellectual development, moral development to understand everything? something that people Jesus' time, weren't. No, we are not. That's why the teachings from the spirits are so dense. They are like, hypertext, Wikipedia, full of blue words that when you
Mhm.
click, it opens a new page. And this new page, it's still to be found, to be understood, to be developed by, the generations to come. Because that is just the beginning, the general idea, presenting especially the laws that we should guide ourselves, because the laws won't change. They are perfect. They are immutable. They are the divine laws. So as Charles mentioned, people still behave in a way, that goes against those laws. And of course, the consequences will come. There's no doubt. So the spirits, they brought the laws, the general laws that we should obey because they are immutable. They are perfect. So base our development here on earth on those laws. But we still, deny that. But, as we evolve, not that the spirit's book will be, outdated. No, on the contrary, our understanding about what the spirits are saying will be much broader. So we will understand new situations that today we don't experience, like the situations we have today. 50, 100 years ago, people wouldn't even dream of, internet. Oh, addicted to internet. What is that? So, situations and relationships and even the technology that we develop that can cause, as Charles mentioned, like the atomic bomb, can cause, death in a massive way. So all these will be better understood when, using the knowledge that the spirits brought to us, that will guide us, that will help us. So yes, it came at a very important time. As Charles mentioned before, we weren't dangerous to the planet. The wars were very limited in the amount of danger to the planet. It would, cause harm to a group, to a certain area. But today we can destroy the planet, as it were. So it came at the right time. There's no doubt about that.
Thank you. Thank you, Munir. Ms. Gibbons, your final considerations.
Well, there's so many things to talk about. I think for me personally, my own experience, one of the things that Spiritism brings me hope for the future, because we look around, the world seems to have gone mad. It's
Mhm.
upside down from the way I was brought up, with certain values that were taught me, and so what to be a dignified human being. And I look around me and I think I must have gone somewhere, because everything I ever learned that should make was important seems to have gone haywire now. And it's very, very easy to become very despondent, because if things seem to be bigger than you. But I think Spiritism explains everything, explains even the madness that surrounds us now. But it says, no, there is a future, there is redemption, there is love, there is, we will overcome all the problems. It's just because humanity is at this point in which we need to learn certain things. And also, I think we are part of it. We need to think peace and work towards it within ourselves, with the people surrounding us, because if we start sending thoughts of negativity, it will grow, and we need to make the difference. And I think that's what Spiritism teaches us, that you as an individual, even though you cannot change the whole world, you can change yourself, and you can help those around you, and you can make around you a cell of love and peace and harmony and kindness, and this will grow. And I think this kind of hope, and that things will be better, it's what really attaches me more than anything else to the Spiritist philosophy. It is the hope for the future, that nothing is lost, but everything is learned. That's what I feel. It makes me go to sleep with peacefully at night,
Yeah, yeah,
Even if the world's not here, I know I will be still somewhere. So, yeah.
exactly. Even helping Charlie is helping the caveman get out of the cave. We're gonna be there. Yeah,
And I think another thing as well in Spiritism that you learn is justice. That is, everything is judged by its own merit. It's not, and you are responsible for what you do. You live a law of cause and effect. And if you do good, you're going to get good. And I think that's very, very important. Very important
my dear
to
Elsa.
be able to do this.
To finish on my part, I will say just one phrase that is wonderful. The time has come when ideas will be developed so that the progress that is in God's agenda plan may be made. So the time has come. So we need to change. Otherwise, we will delay the evolution. Okay? Thank you very much, and God bless us all.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Well, that's a very good topic, and it was good to understand this point of view, and also the comments from Marco, from Pat K, Realia, Sueli Saponara, Abdi Ahmed. So good for your participation, for your collaboration, my friends. So let me share my screen and go to our announcements. And share here, share window, share here. Okay, so next week, 26th of March, we are already finishing March, my gosh. We keep going with the card deck, and the topic is challenge and future of spiritism. Our friend Dan Assis will be with us, and is gonna amazing sharing these thoughts with you all. And I hope everybody join us and be here with us. So by the end of this month, 29th and 30th of March, we have the first European Spiritist Congress. It's going to be held in Switzerland. More details, contact festswiss.org. And this event, it is in Portuguese with translation in 6 different languages. Okay. Also, on the 6th of April, our friend from FESP, Roberto Watanabe, will give his talk about Ernesto Borzano. As you know, every year we dedicate a year for one of the Spiritist philosophers, and this year is Ernesto Borzano. Also, we invite everyone to join us between 7 and 8 of June in Finland, in Vakes. I hope my Finnish is okay. And it's good to share experience, meet with us. We all gonna be there, so it's good to give you more details about spiritism, organization of groups, and clear up any doubts you may have. This is a 2 days event. Becca kindly is organizing this for us. Please email Becca. Here you have his website, and he will give you more details on how to reach Vokish and accommodation as well. Also, in September, we will have the International Spiritist Congress about Joana de Angelis. Silvia Gibbons is one of the it's not a speaker, Silvia. It is a speaker or for the
It's
speaker,
we are going to be part of the round table.
the round
In,
table.
in
Good.
yes, in several different. There'll be talks and will be a lot of discussion, and we'll be part of the discussion groups.
Okay. Okay. Good. Thank you, my
It's
dear.
going to be really very interesting. People should, go. And it's in a beautiful place in Hertfordshire. So it should be nice.
Thank you. Also, if you want to receive newsletter in English about the Spiritism, our friend Dan Assisi, he runs the Spiritist Institute. So go to Spiritist Radar, add your email, and subscribe. Last but not least, every Thursday from 6:45 p.m., 7:45 p.m. London time, our young, the future of the Spiritism, our young friends, they do hold online meeting, so everyone is more than welcome to share this meeting with them and uh, help us to make this an effort and bring the future of the spiritism. Okay, that's it from us today, my friends. I want to say thank you all for being here with us. Munir, thank you so much for your
Great
insight.
pleasure.
Helped us a lot with the historical part. At the same time, gave us a very good context along with Charlie, Sylvan, and Elsa. So thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. I'll see you next Wednesday.
Yes.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
See you.
Thank
Thank
It's been
you.
a
you.
pleasure.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.